It's August 3rd, and you know what that means. Our scheduled episode of Design Talk.
Very scheduled.
Very scheduled. Very important.
Very punctual.
Very in your ears right now.
Never been slow with these, ever.
This is the only talk show, podcast. Podcasts are just talk shows, I guess. Podcast where we talk about the latest episode of Design Doc. I'm Mike.
And I love synonyms.
And what?
I'm Dan.
And we're talking about good design, bad design, X. The X stands for extremely long. And so what is this? We had Tuesday. It's Monday after the episode came out, and hits are doing pretty good. And this is the strongest Xenoblade theming we've ever had on an episode.
Yeah, so I guess we can just start with the naming convention of this one. For those wondering, no, Xenoblade Chronicles X was not the reason why this was called Good Design, Bad Design X.
Yeah, no, we figured, so we were talking about, we were trying to figure out the YouTube algorithm, and one of our ideas was, maybe, saying volume and then the number is, kind of a bad thing, because someone might see it and think it's, some kind of Let's Play Part 9 or something. So we were like, you know what? 10th one's a pretty good one to change up the schema on this thing.
And it's still true.
And it's still true. And then we're like, okay, we're going to call it Good Design, Bad Design X. It's just fun. Oh, also, it's the 50th episode, so we actually moved up the release date of it a little bit to coincide with both of them, just because that felt the most right, since it was sort of our best known series. But yeah, so the X, we landed on the X, and then we started making you started making the thumbnail ideas.
Yeah. The biggest thing is the toughest part of this was just picking a marquee title, because the games that we chose do not lend themselves to a marquee at all.
Yeah. We didn't have the Xenoblade representation until fairly we landed on let's do Xenoblade twice. Fairly late. It was after we had done Grease and after we had done Puzzle League.
We had been holding on to things like Xenoblade Definitive Edition as possibly as a Good Design, Bad Design All-Stars.
I'm still throwing around an All-Stars idea.
Where we kind of revisit games or games that have had remasters or remakes.
Yeah, we might still do that. But
we might still do that, but who knows? It might be in a different form than what we originally thought.
But then you were making the thumbnail and then just having Good Design, Bad Design X on there. It looked really boring.
It looked really boring. We needed to jazz it up.
Yep. And then turns out Xenoblade Chronicles X has 2 X's in the name.
Yeah.
And one is extremely stylized. So
after we decided on Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, I was kind of just having a chat with you on Discord. I just came to the realization wait, Xenoblade Chronicles X would be one, a good counter to Definitive Edition.
Yep.
And 2, it would coincide really well with the X name scheme.
Yeah. And then you made a mock-up, and I was like, that mock-up looks really good.
Yeah, so it's oh crap, do I finally have to confront Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I personally don't really like that much.
Yeah. And it also turned out, which is, we didn't have 3 bad designs out of the gate. We only had 1. Which is very unusual for us. We usually come up with the bad designs first.
Yeah.
And we didn't even having a bad design sort of marquee title is something we also don't usually do. But it fits so well with all the rest of it that we just kind of landed on that.
Well, the main marquee there was the
Minato. The sword is
that's Definitive Edition.
Yeah, that's the other one, but
That's the main one.
That X in the title is a pretty.
Yeah. I mean, we've done that before. And also we've had Tom
I think
Nook.
we only did it on 9, right?
We've done 9. We've also done partially with Volume 7 with the JoJo
thing.
That one's a lot more
that's
subtle.
A pretty minor element,
Yeah.
but that still applies, I guess. This is a little more blatant. And I'm guessing, based on some of our stats, which are good stats, but some people are coming in thinking it's like a Xenoblade specific episode, like the whole thing Xenoblade.
Yeah,
and like they're skipping to that part.
That was one thing I was a little afraid of because like we double dip on the Xenoblade branding. We originally had a version of the thumbnail try to incorporate the panel to pawn puzzle pieces.
You can see that on the community tab on the channel where we have sort of the Monado and the panel to pawn pieces kind of both on the thing. We were trying to incorporate both of those into the thumbnail, and then nothing looked right. It was all either panel to pawn stuff was too small,
too distracting, and like it just clashed.
Yeah, it just looked wrong in every single like way that we tried to jam it in there.
We would have to try a completely different composition.
You had the good idea of having the piece in the center, just kind of like the symbol and the actual Monado in the game, and have it be a panel to pawn tile. I was like, that's a good idea. And then you do it, and then the piece is like taking up like 6 pixels by 6 pixels.
And it just does not look right.
Loses it entirely.
And also the fact that it's using dark gray background for the block doesn't really.
Yeah, the tiles don't look right if you do white on clear, so you have to do white on gray and have it be a solid thing, and that looks pretty. I think it looks pretty good. It's just it doesn't translate to a small tile either.
Like looking back on it now, I wonder if I could have like cheated with a little bit more color and just add that to the blocks. Maybe that could have tried.
I mean, you add too much color, it stops looking like our brand. Like I think we can get away with like one splash of color, and the X in the title kind of takes that spot.
Yeah, we've been doing that a little bit more and more lately with Tom Nook and the umbrella logo.
Yeah, I think it's a decent idea, like to just splash color that thing in there. If it makes the card look better, like a lot better by its inclusion.
Yeah, like you need the additional contrast.
Yeah, because like here's a take-home quiz. What would the Good Design Bad Design X logo look like in grayscale? It would lose everything. It would look real bad.
No, like we tried grayscale earlier, like that wasn't really working. It just didn't look right. The contrast wasn't strong enough, and it just wasn't that appealing. At least not with that X, because that X, like I see that it's like no, it has to have that turquoise green. I want to say green.
Turquoise green.
Turquoise green.
So I guess we're talking mostly about the Xenoblade bit. So in the actual segment, which one did you start with? You wrote both of them because I haven't touched Xenoblade. So.
Like Xenoblade Definitive Edition was the first one. That one definitely lent itself to a segment.
I mean, that was the sort of direct descendant of the
previous
All Stars idea.
Yeah. Originally we were saving it for that, but it's like no, like we need another good design segment here.
It's tied in because what you really don't want to do is draw people in with a bad design element as the main element. Like if we did,
I guess we did. We've already done that.
Yeah.
But
I guess that was fine.
If we're gonna do that, like our logic is basically. We have to do it on something that people already know is a problem, and Animal Crossing is infamous.
You can't just be like, oh, I don't like Monster Hunter. Let's put the what is it? Thanator? No, Thanator is an Avatar thing.
Why am I blanking on it right now? Oh my god.
Ralkos.
Rathalos.
Rathalos.
Yeah. Rathalos in there. But that usually if we do that, we have like it as a good design segment or like partially as a good design segment. And Monster Hunter lent itself to that because it had a lot of good and bad qualities.
Yeah, Yeah, I guess this is kind of an echo of the having Monster Hunter twice in one segment. Um, but yeah, so I guess those two, like, it's a lot of the segment itself is a lot about UI improvements.
Yeah, lots of improvements with Definitive Edition. It's a much more usable UI. It makes the battle system like way more understandable
Yeah.
and like more fun as a result.
Yeah.
Just a lot cleaner, and also it takes a good game. It takes a great game and makes it amazing for me.
Yep.
Because Xenoblade Chronicles probably a top 5 JRPG for me.
Yep. And then for the bad design for X.
Yeah, so X had been kind of floating around since as early as Volume 3. Like, I had written a couple paragraphs for it back then, but it wasn't really coming together. I didn't really know what to focus on. It would kind of just sound like, this is bad because it's bad.
Yeah. Which is, yeah.
And-
I don't want to make a segment like bad because bad.
And early on, the segment started out as a general overview, kind of like the Definitive Edition segment, which was the general overview comparing to the bad design segment of the original game. And originally, I kind of wanted to do that, but you looked at it and said, "Nah, this is just too unfocused and repetitive."
Yeah, it's just kind of reviewy.
And you were right.
Yeah.
But there were definitely some UX things that I did not want to leave on the table that you can see at the very start.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of issues with X that we didn't even cover. But
Yeah.
we covered, like, the major ones.
Yeah, I think it's better just to be like, if we can focus on one topic, just be like, don't do this one specific thing this game is worst known for.
Yeah. I mean, like, that comes back to all the segments. There's a lot of elements that we don't talk about. Like, there's a bunch of good design segments that have, like, UI problems that we don't discuss.
Yeah. Where it's not supposed to be a comprehensive review of every element of every game, good and bad. It's supposed to be like, highlight, vertical slice this one very specific thing of this one game and celebrate it or detract from it and like just point out what is screwed up. So maybe you at home, if you're designing something, or you can just if you're designing something, you can avoid it, or you can just be able to sort of communicate specific problems in other games like a little more clearly.
Like, a lot of the cut writing for these segments ends up being stuff that ends up, like, couching our arguments.
Well, this other thing's bad, but the rest of it's good. It's like, well, no, it unfocuses the writing, I think.
It's unfocused, it's distracting, it's basically a road bump.
Yeah, it doesn't help. And and it just pads the runtime, which this episode did not need at all. Because, oh my god, it's very long.
It was very long, but, like, it was tough to cut stuff.
Yeah, the Panel to Pawn segment, which we should talk about next, I think is the longest single segment we've done. And it's kind of like a mini... It's like its own Design Doc episode
Like,
on its own.
You know, if...
Like, those first 3 that you did for your thesis project are about that long a piece. So
Yeah.
the Kingdom Hearts one that you did after that is...
Like 7.
It's like 7 minutes.
Yeah, remember when when these episodes used to be short?
Well, for the Kingdom Hearts one, at least you fully animated the first 20 seconds of that.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that anymore?
Because it takes forever and I don't want to do it. I don't draw anymore.
But yeah, that Panel to Pawn segment, I'm a big Panel to Pawn fan. And
I'm a big Panel to
means
Pawn fan.
I'm a big Tetris Attack fan, which means I'm a big Pokemon Puzzle League fan. And then there's like 20 other ones.
Yeah, so man, actually thinking back on like Puzzle League, I remember like back in college, like wondering like, man, whatever happened to Puzzle League? Did that ever come back? And then like on my 3DS, there is a DSiWare for like Puzzle League Express.
It's like, ooh.
And like, oh my god, there is another Puzzle League game. Why didn't I know about this? Foreshadowing of what I'll do in the future.
Yeah, it's Puzzle League's freaking great.
And Nintendo does not respect it.
No, it's put it on the F-Zero pile of things that deserve better than they have.
F-Zero pile, Chibi Robo pile.
At least those things, like if you say, hey, guess what? Got a new F-Zero. It's coming out in 20 minutes. Like, people would freak out. People would know what that is. If you say, hey, I've got Puzzle League, some people know what that is. You at home, especially now that you've seen the episode, know what that is.
Like, if they tied it with Pokemon, they would know what that is, but
they won't.
They won't. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating looking at Puzzle League because it is one of those series that has never had a proper chance to shine.
Yeah, it just keeps jumping brand to brand to brand. And I don't know, that was, I think, my favorite segment to make of this whole one, because I think it's maybe the funniest one we've done. Like, it's not, it's not hilarious or anything, but it's pretty funny.
Like, we're not comedians, but we try to put humor in when it feels appropriate.
Yeah, just the thing, like, I like doing kind of history related stuff, even if they don't do super hot in the hits. But like the Panel de Pon stuff just lined up perfectly to be like a mini history lesson kind of thing, which is I was into. And then you just line it up and you say, hey, what's the most logical next step for them to do branding wise? And it's always they don't do the most obvious thing.
Yeah, like I remember like looking at like some videos on the general history of Puzzle League and I'm just like noticing like, what is up with this branding?
Yeah,
this is ridiculous. What the hell? Like,
it's just nonsense.
This was like an early contender for like Volume 9, actually.
Yeah, no, this got moved over from a branding thing, and we were like, is branding really like tied in? And I mean, that still applies.
Like, it's adjacent. Yeah. Like, overall, it's communication of information.
Yeah, it's the consistency of communicating what the game is actually going to be. And if you literally change every word in the title, what are you supposed to
like? It's your logo. It's your literal logo.
And it's like the series is called Puzzle League because all of the other words that people use in the games that people know it best from have been like copyrighted or meaningless. Like, you can't just use the word attack. Like, I suppose you could.
Like, it's,
but they didn't, so
like,
now you
Puzzle
can't.
Attack might have worked, but even then, that's still not amazing.
Yeah.
It's like Puzzle League is such a generic brand on its own. Like, it's clearly like a brand that is supposed to be tied to Pokemon because of the Pokemon League. Like, it's clearly, it's clearly based on Pokemon conventions.
And then the second Pokemon game isn't even called Pokemon Puzzle League Game Boy or whatever. It's Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, and it's not. Does that is multiplayer, right?
The Game Boy version? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you go through
there might be a link cable?
It's not just like a one player like puzzle mode, is it? Is there no league?
I mean, like the battle mode, like I think it shows you like.
Does it show two things on screen?
I know the Game Boy Advance version of Puzzle League shows you like a abstract like window into the other screen.
But now you know at home just how little we researched the Pokemon Puzzle Challenge line of the script. That got skipped over a little bit.
No, there were multiple games in this series that I didn't even know existed. Like, that's a major problem.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't even know that they like existed, that's what is that?
And then
like
Puzzle League and Planet Puzzle League is like, okay, you're trying to start a branding thing, but it's very generic, and it's not even like a cool generic, like a Luminous kind of thing.
And not only that, like after Pokemon Puzzle League, you had 2 entries that were tied to other puzzle games.
Yeah.
It's like one in Japan only, which was the remnants of the N64 version of Panel de Pon, which recently the prototype for that got out.
Mm-hmm.
So, which coincidentally, like when we were writing this, like I'm not sure if this really was the N64 version. It probably was. It shares the same sound effects.
And some guy hacks everything. He's like, "Yep, confirmed. There you go. Also, you get unfiltered Star Fox sounds."
I mean, I don't think that was actually tied to the.
Oh, was that not tied to that?
I don't think that was tied to the Giga League. I think someone just found an actual prototype.
Just a lot of stuff leaking all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think this was a bit before the Giga League.
I thought that was part of that leak. But yeah, so also there's a ton of people on Twitter all of a sudden talking about how much they love Panel de Pon.
I feel like several people, like John Cartwright, is kind of like leading the charge on that.
Yeah,
And
good on you,
yeah,
John Cartwright. Keep going.
from Game Explain fame.
Bring it back. Bring back the thing that we all know and love.
I feel like, and of course,
Call it John Cartwright's Puzzle Attack.
I'm just imagining
Just do a new
Lee
thing.
Carvello's putting challenge, but John Cartwright.
How's that gonna help your puzzle attack?
Now we need to make this public.
Yeah, actually, we need to make a clip.
We might make this public.
I don't know. All right, so Puzzle League's good. Go play Puzzle League. You have anything more on that?
I guess I was just talking about how it was tied to like other puzzle game brands, 2 games in a row, like Dr. Mario and stuff like that.
And then a slow, bad version of it in Animal Crossing 3 years too late.
I didn't even know that. Like when I like first saw that when it came out in 2016, like I forgot it existed until like 3 years later.
Yeah, no, it's very forgettable.
And then I looked into it more. It's like, oh my god, that is a bad version of this game.
Yeah, no, it's...
Why would you make a mini game version of it? Like, was there gonna be a greater Animal Crossing Puzzle League? Yeah, whatever.
Let's quick talk about Greece, which is pronounced Greece because they're in Spain, and that's the Spanish word for gray, not the French word. It is also the French word, but it's not. They're not French.
It's also pig in Danish.
Oh, great! Was that also in the comments?
Yep, a couple times.
God, there's so many people in the comments talking about, oh, it's French. It's like, yeah, I know.
Yep,
But it's also
it is French.
Spanish.
It's also Spanish. Like,
it's also, I think it's like, they're from Barcelona. The studio's in Barcelona, so I think it's like Greece, because I think they might speak Catalan. I don't know, but
I have no idea. But like,
it's not French.
it is closer to how we pronounced it.
Yeah.
Just going by interviews, like Greece.
Oh, is it interview? I didn't see the interviews with
like. Yeah, they're. God, I forget the channel, but you can look it up. Just like look up Greece developer interview.
Yeah, that is the Greece is another very art heavy tell a story and look at this painting kind of thing.
And kind of like Journey and Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yeah, and that Gorogoa, Gorogoa. There's a phone game.
I haven't played it. I know what you're talking about.
Gorogoa, something like that.
I don't know.
It was the thing where you had to like manipulate paintings on the wall to go through a story, wordless kind of thing that was popular like 2015, 16 maybe. I don't know. But mostly for phones. It was fine. But yeah, I didn't play it. I didn't play Greece, so...
Yeah, no, Greece was one of those games I had heard a lot of good things about. Didn't know the specifics, so I kind of just went in wondering if it could be a segment.
Yeah.
And that is a very good artsy puzzle platformer.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. For that, I just found it interesting just how like the game was constantly leading me like through very subtle geometric shapes.
Yep.
Like, and just constant like zoom outs, and it just made me think of like, okay, how many times did they like go through each of these levels and just carefully place every single like artistic element just so the framing would be just right, because like throughout the whole thing you can really feel that they just meticulously went over everything.
Yeah. And I didn't hear like hardly anything coming out about Greece, and it's been out for a couple of years.
Like I had heard a lot of like, you know, just general praise on the art, but like no specifics.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing to highlight that. It looks really good. So
yeah, it's very, very good. Like,
did it
once again, highly recommend it.
Yeah. So and then the last segment, which was in the middle of the video, so we're not doing this in order at all, was Return to the Obra Dinn, which you played through all of like in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that had been a game that had been on my library for about a year. I think I got it for my birthday last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a game that I had been interested in, but I didn't have the push.
Yep.
And, you know, it looked like it would be interesting to talk about, and then I actually like gave it a try. It's like, oh yeah, this looks pretty good. This is like this art style I imagine was difficult to work with, but I imagine there's like a really good story behind that.
Yep.
And then I got hooked immediately
Yeah.
because like I do like
really
detective games a whole lot.
I played it before you did, but I got stuck about 7 or 8 characters in because there's like this one part of it that I don't think I have enough information, but apparently I do because everyone else has no problem with it. And
At that point, you just have to like
I
push
haven't
forward
looked
and
it
come
up.
back later.
Yeah.
But you really need to push through that
That's
game.
really good. That's the kind of logic deduction games is like totally up my alley.
You should beat that game so we can talk about how that guy died and laugh at him for how he died.
I mean, I've seen a couple of those, but it's probably
Yeah, but there's several.
there's another one.
That guy got it. That guy really got it.
Yeah. Yeah, just seeing the what you can do with a very limiting art style.
Yeah, there is a lot of Lucas Pope has a full dev blog like of the entire development of Oberdin, and from the beginning he wanted this to be developed. Like, from the beginning, he started with the art style,
Yep.
and that's kind of like not what a lot of games do. Usually, they start with mechanics
Yeah.
first, and then art style later. In fact, his previous game was like that. But yeah, there's just a lot of good details in there.
Papers, Please his last game before this, or is there?
I
one in
believe so.
between? Okay.
Like, I didn't play Papers, Please myself.
I played Papers, Please all the way through, but I mean that's a pretty short game, so.
Yeah. Yeah, also, like, Papers, Please, like, the tone of that seemed a little much for me, so that's partially why I wasn't jumping on Oberdin immediately.
Yeah, no, this one's not. Like, the tone of it is just kind of
Like,
not as depressing.
it's
I mean,
more of it's a mystery.
Yeah, so.
It's like, man, everything bad that could happen on a ship happened on that ship.
We found 24 unique ways for you all to die.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh, Kraken.
So that art style is sparse in animation to fix some problems that would have come up with
Yeah.
that dithering.
Such a limited but detailed art style, like that is a huge task to undertake in order to make that like one pleasant and two easy to work around.
Yeah, and having the animation not be there totally fits in with a take a magnifying glass to this whole thing and really think through what probably happened. Like, be the detective, think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, like
As opposed to, jam item 1 onto item 2 and you've solved the puzzle now,
Like-
kind of stuff.
figure out how these these short voice clips how they apply to the situation. Like, look at characters like positions, look at their poses, look at their uniforms. Like, the game wants you to look at every little detail and then just deduce who these people were. It's like, oh, look at this guy's outfit, he was probably a steward or a midshipman for or someone working right under the captain.
Yeah.
And just look at how characters are grouped together in those illustrations, look at that, and just all sorts of little details, even on the ship itself.
All right, so that's all the stuff that got in. We only did 5 because it was 25 minutes long as is.
Yeah,
And
no,
having
we did, at first we were like, okay, we should probably get 6 segments in here, but as these were getting bigger, especially Puzzle League,
Yeah.
we had to go over Puzzle League a couple times. Like, the whole no bit actually came in pretty late.
Yeah. It was... The whole thing was less funny on the first pass. And they were like, this is a little ridiculous. I think one of us said...
we were breaking down,
Yeah.
the series as, did they do the sensible thing? No.
No.
Did they do the
No.
sensible thing? No. Did they do the sensible thing? No.
And then we were just like, that's a bit. We could do that.
It's like, this has to be a bit.
Yeah.
And it was.
So there's a Psychonauts bit that's cut in here. Oh, the The 3 good, 2 bad is a counterpoint to the 2 good, 3 bad of, I think, Volume 9.
It's not why we did it, but it made it easier to do it.
It now matches up. So now we have an even number, again, of goods and bads.
I don't know
Actually,
if that's
no,
true.
that's not true.
That's probably not true because
Well,
we've
Also,
held
Volume 1, the double dipping on Mario Party 8 in the same episode.
We've double dipped in multiple ways
Yeah.
and also like we tend to do shorter segments for the final bad design segment because like
It's more fun. You don't want people to get bored.
One, it's more fun. Two, we're out of time.
Yeah. But yeah, we were trying to find another bad design, and then there's a Psychonauts one, and it was just kind of like...
Yeah. The Psychonauts one, I don't think I'm going to make this a full bad design segment, so I'm fine with saying this.
Yeah.
The segment was going to be about just the collectibles, the figments in those games, which are these like little flat 2D images.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, they're not 2D images that billboard according to the camera. They don't face the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also multicolored. So at certain points, it became impossible to spot where these objects were, which is kind of a problem, especially if you want to be a completionist.
Yeah. So you're looking at that, and then it was like, it's very specific, and it's like a specific collectible design
Like,
thing.
we might mention it in a episode about, like, 3D collectathons or, like, collectibles in general.
Yeah, we might. I actually very possibly could do a collectible design.
That won't be the
episode
next
still.
one, though. We are
It's,
already...
Yeah, it's not the next, like, 2.
Maybe.
But it's on the list. But it wasn't that funny, and it was 25 minutes long. We don't want to add another 5 minutes to the thing to explain the whole thing and make it a 28-minute episode. And it's like, oh.
And actually, before that segment, I was also thinking about a blue coin segment from Mario Sunshine,
yeah.
because that game does not give you the tools to track that down.
Yeah, I think both of those end up mentioned in the collectibles section.
Yeah.
Or in a future collectibles episode.
Yeah, UX problems, but not for this episode.
Yeah. I forgot we had a juiciness idea.
We've been holding on to that for a while, but
Yeah,
it's never
that's
quite come together because
what was it? The original like last one on volume 8 or something.
I think so. Yeah, before we drop both of those.
Yeah, but it's still just bullet points, so we haven't done much.
It's basically just the flair of any game, which I don't know if that'll ever become a true segment. It might inform other segments, but
yeah, it gets a little unfocused when you have like a just general topic.
It's a little bit
a sub segment kind of thing.
It's a little bit of a it's good because it's good.
Yeah. So
we had like an award show an idea.
Oh yeah, we were gonna do some kind of like 50th episode look back on whatever, and then we were like, it's already 25 minutes long.
It's like we don't have time. Like
cut this bit.
We have to polish everything else. We can't do this.
Yeah. So
and all that went into stuff like the Puzzle League segment, which was worth it.
Yeah, that turned out okay. So that's the episode. We already talked about some of the visual stuff. You got anything else?
Nah, that's pretty much it. And like, there was a sizable amount of stuff. Actually, one thing. There was also a early contender for Nights into Dreams as a bad design segment, because that game doesn't I like that game a whole lot. It doesn't have great conveyance. It's kind of a confusing mess in terms of like, what am I supposed to do? It's very unlike any other game, and it doesn't really sell itself that well.
Oh, maybe what was that one that looks like Nights that just got announced?
Balan Wonderworld. That one definitely seems more like a traditional 3D platformer. It's actually like a fusion of Nights and Billy Hatcher, which is the other Sonic Team game.
Great. Okay. Sure.
You're very into this.
That's both of my favorite things.
Yeah, Sonic and Team.
Sonic and their team. So look out for that one in the distant future.
Maybe.
Distant future.
I'm not even committed to it. So who knows? Like, I might revisit it.
But we are committing to continuing to write new scripts this week. I've got mine partially. Well, I've got the intro paragraph and the ad transition on mine done, and then notes for the rest of it.
And I got a crap ton of notes and like games to talk about. This is gonna definitely be kind of our
a status effecty kind of scope, kind of
kind of
genre,
our TV tropes-esque thing.
TV tropes approach, which I like. Turns out okay. We'll see if this one does too. Anyway, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks to our Patreons. I keep saying that every time. Thanks to our patrons. And thanks for your support.
Keep watching the skis.
Channel.
Moon skies.
All right, see ya.
Bye.